Did you know that in the 1930s, the government of the United States of America confiscated all the citizens' gold? Yeah, neither did I. Recently came to light, and I want to read this article and talk about it. Also, I will be sharing some clips from a phenomenal David Rogers Webb video coming up. Of course, he is the creator of The Great Taking book and documentary that I highly recommend. I've reviewed that on my YouTube channel here in the review section. It's probably the biggest, most important topic Americans and the world should be focusing on, because to make a long story short, The Great Taking is what they want to precede the Great Reset. I'm sure you've heard of the Great Reset, right? You'll own nothing and be happy about it. I'm not sure how they get to decide what makes us happy and what doesn't. But the Great Taking is what they want to precede that, and they have plans, and everything is all in place. And I do mean everything. They've amended the Uniform Commercial Code in all 50 states and have all of their ducks in a row to sweep assets, including securities, stocks, and bonds, and potentially anything that is collateralized by debt. It's a wild, wild situation. And it's basically the 2.0 version of when the United States government writes a debt note in the citizens' names and gives it to Wall Street. You know, it happened in 2008. That's the most recent example. But I highly recommend you look into it. Again, The Great Taking by David Rogers Webb. Let's jump into this article and see what we can learn. The whole goal is to protect ourselves from the criminals that have been running our government for the whole time, and we didn't even know it, right under our noses. Many of us didn't even know it. Some did. All right, I'll put the link to the description, or to this website down below, how the U.S. government seized all citizens' gold in 1930s. There's a picture of Franklin D. Roosevelt signs bill that will lead to Gold Reserve Act of 1934. With global financial markets in disarray, many investors are turning to classic safe havens. Gold is trading above $17.50 per troy ounce, probably far beyond that. This is an article from 2020, so not that long ago, which is the standard measure, more than 15% above where it started in 2020. Even after a strong rally since March, the S&P 500 stock market index is down nearly 10% over the same period. Gold confers familiarity during downturns. Its returns are uncorrelated with assets like stocks, so it tends to hold its value when they fall. It's also a good way of avoiding currency devaluation. It therefore features in any well-diversified investor's portfolio, whether via gold mining shares, gold funds, bullion, or whatever. Like, lots of people go to precious metals, like, what's going to hold value moving forward? Gold and silver historically have held that value. Yet there are two slight caveats to viewing gold as a safe haven. Okay, two. Let's check it out here. Early in an economic downturn, gold prices often plummet with the rest of the market. This is from investors selling gold to offset losses in shares and other assets. We saw this in March when gold fell 12% in 2 weeks, then quickly recovered. If the coronavirus causes more market panic, this could happen again. Gold returned via S&P 500, so you can check that chart out there. During extreme crisis, governments can also seize people's gold. That's awesome. So the criminal governments who govern some of us, can take gold. That's wild. There have been some stunning examples of gold confiscation in the past. Most memorably, this occurred in the U.S. in 1933 during the Great Depression, albeit it's more accurate to call it nationalization than a confiscation. But again, it's all semantics, right? Hey, we got to do this for the good of the people. You know, we got to bail out Wall Street because they're too big to fail. But you on Main Street, you're on your own. All right, let's continue. The government of Franklin D. Roosevelt seized all gold bullion and coins via Executive Order 6102, forcing citizens to sell at well below market rates. Immediately after the confiscation, the government set a new official rate for gold that was much higher as part of the Gold Reserve Act of 1934. Of course. Hashtag criminals. Gold has enthralled humanity since ancient times. Still, it glitters from central bank vaults to jewelry bazaars the world over. The conversation brings you 5 essential briefings of academic experts on the world. Okay, this is something, the Gold series, a deep dive by experts. Okay, that's an ad. This was the era of gold standard, which meant dollars were tradable for an exact amount of the precious metal. Yeah, I wish that was still the case. Don't you wish that was still the case? Seizing the metal enabled the government to print more dollars to try to stimulate the economy and also to buy more dollars on the international market to shore up the exchange rate. It's all financial bullshit, right? As we learn now, it's basically a Ponzi scheme and a scam. It's a scam. Too bad the people back then didn't know that. Since we're in the information age, we have it at our fingertips. Like if people want to know, they can know. That's why I want to share this with you because, like I said, I think it's always money, power, and control that they want, right? If you know better, you're going to do better. I didn't know better in 2008. I was like, when you look at these financial collapses and wars and now even pandemics, and you see the manipulation by the government, by the media, by billionaire philanthropists, and you're like, oh, okay, you can kind of, once they run games so many times, you can catch on to the game and you're like, oh, I see what you're doing. Okay, let's see here. Many gold owners were understandably unhappy about the gold seizure, and some fought it in the courts. Ultimately, however, the government could not be stopped, and gold ownership remained illegal in the U.S. until the 70s. That is wild. That is absolutely wild. Smedley Butler told us war is a racket. It sounds like everything the government does is a racket. I'll go as far as to say that. This intervention was not unique, even in contemporary history. In 1959, Australia's government put a law in place that allowed gold seizures from private citizens if, quote, expedient to do so for the protection of the currency or of the public credit of the Commonwealth of Australia. Awesome, right? And in 1966, to stop the decline in the pound, the UK government banned citizens from owning more than 4 gold or silver coins and blocked the private import of gold. This was only lifted in 1979. Horns of a trilemma. Why do governments risk the bad publicity of restricting gold? This is linked to a cornerstone of macroeconomics known as the monetary policy trilemma. This states that countries must choose between 2 of the following and can't generally do all 3 at the same time. 1, setting fixed exchange rates. 2, allowing capital to move freely over international borders. And 3, being able to independently set interest rates and print money. In other words, control monetary policy. So it looks like there's a video here on the page, The Impossible Trinity. 60-second. Okay, I'm not going to play that. You can check that out. I'm going to watch it after this article. In the 1930s system, countries generally chose fixed exchange rates linked to gold, plus free capital movement, and sacrificed control of monetary policy. The system came under more and more pressure because too many investors were trading in their money for gold. And can you blame them? Can you blame them? Sketchy AF GOV. One way for the U.S. to take enough control of monetary policy to print more money was to impose various capital controls, including seizing gold. Today, the situation is different because Western economies have free-floating exchange rates, so they have control over monetary policy and can allow capital to move freely. In other words, they can do whatever they want with their money, and they can print as much as they want to spend trillions on bullshit wars or bullshit whatever else they do. It's all a fugazi, as we are realizing. This means that during a crisis, they can print money and cut interest rates without having to impose controls on the likes of gold. In fact, any direct meddling by governments in the gold markets today would likely be counterproductive. It would increase investor anxiety and encourage them to rush to other assets with similar properties, such as silver or gold precious metals. Those who hold gold are therefore probably safer than they might have been in the past, so that's encouraging. There are alternatives open to governments besides outright gold nationalization. For example, when the UK left the international gold standard in 1931, The devaluation of the pound put pressure on other currencies such as the Dutch guilder. In response, the Netherlands imposed a variety of restrictions on gold that stopped short of confiscation. Again, this kind of move is unnecessary in today's era when countries control their own monetary policy. Gold will probably remain a safe haven for the sideline or on the sidelines, unless countries felt they had to sell their reserves aggressively for some reason, say to reduce debts, right? And let me finish this, then I got a side note. Even if the current crisis that's not on the horizon, even in the current crisis, that's not on the horizon, but the one lesson from history that all investors need to bear in mind is that in times of crisis, anything goes. Like the government's going to protect theirs. That's the message that I think we need to take away from this. And looking at history, they don't care about you. They don't care about me. They care about protecting their own and the people they work for, which are the private central bankers. And like George Carlin said, the owners of this country. It's a big club and we're not in it. So, we need to take it upon ourselves to know their game, to stay ahead of their game. That's what it's all about. The thing I was going to say is, it skipped my mind. It'll come back to me. If you like this article, find more. Okay, so that's the article. Fantastic article. Now, I will also be reviewing and watching a video that I watched the other day. It's phenomenal. I want to share that on my YouTube channel about this same thing. And it's phenomenal because, again, it illuminates what governments can do and will do and have done, right? You will know them by their fruits. If they've done it in the past, they might do it in the future. This is why the last people on earth you want to trust is government, right? Whether it's the United States government or a foreign government, they're all sketchy AF. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you very much. If you haven't already checked out One Life, I want to invite you to go check that out at thisismyonelife.com. Life is a game we play against ourselves, right? It's about becoming the best version of ourselves, and it's about every day pushing into that new version and letting go of old beliefs, old thought patterns, old habits, old ways of being and doing so that we can create the life that we want. Again, you can learn more at thisismyonelife.com. Thanks very much. Have an awesome day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.